Culiacan. A city where gunfire rings louder than alarm clocks. And silence after dark is more terrifying than screams in daylight. The day Juan Luis posted that video online, he unknowingly started a countdown. Laughing into the camera, he mocked a shadow, El Mencho, the most feared drug lord in Mexico. An old coward hiding in the dark. He called him, grinning, vaping, drunk on tequila and attention. But El Mencho wasn't a meme. He was the night itself. And in that darkness, one insult is all it takes to sign your death warrant. Juan was only 17, but the road behind him was littered with more scars than most men carry in a lifetime. Born in Villa Juarez, deep in Mexico's infamous Golden Triangle, where heroin, violence, and disappearances are a way of life, he never stood a chance. His father died before he could walk. His mother passed when he was 5. That left only his grandmother, Maria Rosalette Torres, a weathered woman with silver hair and calloused hands, who sold tamales on the street and worked the fields to feed her grandchildren. Juan learned early that poverty was a disease no school diploma could cure. He dropped out after just 1 year of secondary school. From then on, it was street corners and odd jobs, washing cars, wiping windshields, hawking gum, anything to survive. But Juan craved something more than money. He wanted fame, respect, the kind that comes with a flashy Instagram feed and tens of thousands of followers. Social media became his stage. It started with silly videos, tattoos, cheap cars, crude jokes, but as his audience grew, so did his appetite for danger. He cursed at cops, trolled rival gangs, and mocked powerful names, the very people others wouldn't even whisper about. The more reckless he got, the more likes poured in. Every follow was another nail in his coffin. And then, he crossed the final line. One late-night livestream changed everything. Juan stared into the camera, eyes bloodshot, slurring with bravado. If El Mencho's so tough, why hasn't he shown his face? Maybe he's just an old man hiding in a sewer. The clip went viral overnight. Some laughed, others warned him. Juan brushed it off. He didn't believe a tweet could kill. Hundreds of miles away, a man watched the video in silence. No anger, no words, just a nod. That was all it took. A machine of death moved into motion. 3 weeks later, in a quiet Zapopan street, gunfire shattered the stillness. 18 rounds, no witnesses, no calls to police. By morning, his body lay cold on the pavement, unrecognizable. Phone shattered beside him like a tombstone for his digital ego. Before Juan Luis mocked El Mencho, before the bullets, before the blood, there was just a boy, a school dropout, a misfit with soft features and a hunger for something more. At 16, Juan began slipping into the edges of Culiacan's underworld. Not with drugs or guns, at first, but with curiosity, with envy. He wanted in. He wanted to be one of them, those men with gold chains and matte black SUVs. Their lives pulsing to the rhythm of narco-corridos and synthetic ecstasy. But Juan didn't fit. He was too soft, too clean, too harmless. The cartel guys didn't take him seriously. He looked like a child wearing his father's shoes, trying to swagger, but stumbling. Still, he tried, and on that road paved with desperation and cheap thrills, Juan made friends. The wrong kind. They drank, partied, laughed through the night, chasing a dream stitched together from music videos and Instagram stories. One night in 2015, during a chaotic house party, someone filmed Juan chugging tequila straight from the bottle. The video started light, Juan smiling, vibrant, the life of the party. But minutes later, he was a mess, stumbling, eyes unfocused, collapsing in laughter as the crowd jeered. 100 pesos says he can't spin once without puking, someone shouted off-screen. Laughter erupted. The video exploded online. It wasn't edited. It wasn't polished. But it was real. And that kind of raw embarrassment, especially when tied to a face so oddly expressive and a body so awkwardly round, had viral written all over it. In a world not yet addicted to 10-second attention spans, that clip became a phenomenon. He looked young, too young. Some thought he was 12. Others joked he might be 37. No one could tell. That uncertainty, mixed with the absurdity of his behavior, made him internet gold. And for Juan, who had grown up unnoticed, unloved, and unimportant, it was intoxicating. For the first time, people saw him. laughed with him, laughed at him. It didn't matter. He had attention, and in his world, that was as precious as oxygen. He embraced it. More videos followed. Juan leaned into his persona. He exaggerated the things that made people laugh, his childlike face, his sloppy drinking, his overconfident rants. He coined a catchphrase, "Así no más quedó." Just like that. It's done, and it stuck. It became his brand. Soon, he gave himself a nickname, El Pirata de Culiacán, the Pirate of Culiacán. It wasn't deep. He drank like a sailor. He lived in Culiacán. That was it. But the name fit. The internet loved it. And the numbers didn't lie. 800,000 followers on Facebook. 300,000 on Instagram. Tens of thousands more on Twitter. From a drunken joke to a digital icon. Juan Luis, once a forgotten street kid, was now Mexico's most chaotic internet sensation. Even foreign media started to take notice. BuzzFeed, Vice, tabloids. They called him the child star of Mexican debauchery. As his following grew, so did his ambition. No longer content with being the class clown of social media, Juan began to shape his image. He started mimicking the figures he once envied, men of power, wealth, and danger. He posed next to luxury cars, stacks of cash, girls in bikinis, and even the occasional assault rifle. The transformation was complete. Juan wasn't just a joke anymore. He was becoming an influencer in the darkest sense of the word. His style reflected the Bashan aesthetic, loud, lavish, shameless, champagne, Versace, gold chains, narco corridos blasting in the background. His feeds were filled with models, soccer players, other influencers. His parties were legendary, his lifestyle destructive, and always, he was drinking. It was glamorous to some, grotesque to others, but it kept people watching, talking, reacting, and in the end, that's all Juan Luis ever wanted. But in chasing fame, Juan had forgotten something. Culiacán isn't Hollywood. And in Sinaloa, the line between persona and provocation can be thinner than a strand of gunpowder. He was rising fast, too fast, and someone, somewhere, was already watching. The more the public condemned him, the more famous he became. That was the paradox of Juan Luis, the pirate of Culiacán. The backlash only amplified the myth. He was now more than a meme. He was a walking spectacle. People didn't just want to laugh at him online, they wanted to see him in person. Drunk, wild, unfiltered, party promoters began offering him cash, sometimes wads of it, just to show up and get drunk. His presence guaranteed chaos, and chaos meant content. In any other country, it might have been unthinkable, paying a minor to get blackout drunk in front of strangers. But in Mexico, back then, no one seemed to care. Not about the law, not about the boy. Juan understood one thing. This was his shot. And he wasn't going to waste it. He leaned into the persona, turned it into business, a brand. His Instagram became a curated chaos, luxury cars, borrowed, wads of cash, staged, endless parties, invites he barely understood. None of it was real. But for a kid who had grown up with nothing, even fake gold felt warm on the skin. Still, reality was shifting. Juan was no longer just the funny drunk kid. He was expected to evolve, to shock, to entertain. Just being reckless wasn't enough anymore. The machine wanted more, and he gave it. He turned up the volume, louder, drunker, meaner. His posts began to flirt with violence, his language more aggressive. What once had been accidental comedy became calculated chaos. Then came the night in Torreon, an invite to a music event. Booze, lights, bodies. What was supposed to be another paid appearance spiraled into a nightmare. A fight broke out. A man died. Several others were injured. No one could say who threw the first punch. But one thing was clear. Juan Luis was there. His name trended again. This time, not just in entertainment blogs, but in crime columns. And yet, he was never fully in control of his fame. Despite being called a YouTuber, Juan never owned a channel. Most of the videos people watched, the drunken stumbles, the fights, the absurd rants, were shot by others. Fans, friends, strangers, uploaded not to build his career, but to fuel theirs. Juan was a commodity, a face, a circus act. Even when he appeared on real YouTubers' shows, he was the guest, not the star, a side character, used for clout. Nobody paid him fairly. Nobody cared if he was coherent, or even conscious. They just wanted the moment, that perfect clip of him slurring nonsense. Falling over, vomiting in someone's lap, something viral, something profitable. Behind the scenes, it was uglier. His so-called friends pressured him constantly. Drink more. Take this pill. Try this line. All for the promise of likes. They shoved phones in his face. Waited for him to lose control. Then hit record. To them, Juan Luis wasn't a person. He was a clown with gold teeth. A walking punchline. The perfect avatar of absurdity in a country addicted to spectacle. No one asked what it was doing to him. No one cared what it cost. And yet, his fame only grew. Eventually, a company came knocking. Crush Records, a talent agency that specialized in viral personalities. They offered him a contract. A real one. His name, in ink. It was the closest thing he'd ever had to legitimacy. Juan was ecstatic. He thought he had made it. He believed the spiral was leading upward. But what he didn't realize, what no one told him, was that fame is a cage with invisible bars. And in Culiacan, every cage has a price. Crush Records had connections, and not all of them were legal. Behind the glossy brand, behind the studio lights and rented limos, there were other forces watching Juan. Shadowy figures, interested parties. They'd seen his face. They'd seen his reach. And in the world of cartels and dirty influence, even a clown has value, so long as he draws a crowd. And Juan Luis? He was drawing millions. According to whispers in the nightlife circuit, Juan Luis, the pirate of Culiacan, could earn between 15,000 to 50,000 Mexican pesos per appearance. That's about $800 to $2,700 per night. For a kid who once slept on sidewalks and wiped windshields for coins. The number was staggering. He was living a dream. But it was a dream made of mirrors, and behind them, knives. To his followers, he had made it, a viral star, turning laughter into money. But to others, Juan was nothing more than a sideshow act. A clown in the crude theater of narco culture, a term loaded with classism, mockery, and disdain. Some saw him as a cautionary tale. A walking disaster in designer knockoffs. Others, more well-meaning, urged him to go back to school, to choose a safer path. But Juan knew better. No one understood the value of this opportunity like he did. No one had seen what he'd seen. And he wasn't about to give it all up for the comfort of normalcy. By late 2017, the pirate of Culiacan was flying city to city, performing alongside musicians, appearing on podcasts, and headlining nightclubs. The highlight came with a sit-down interview on the Pepe Garza Show, one of Mexico's most influential platforms for rising personalities. Juan dressed loud. He laughed. He postured. But his answers were a mess, slurred, rambling, nearly incoherent. Some blamed drugs. Others blamed poor education. But what struck audiences most wasn't Juan, it was Pepe. The veteran broadcaster, visibly uneasy, warned Juan directly. You're riding a wave that doesn't end well. This life, it doesn't forgive. Juan and his entourage scoffed, dismissed the concern as old man paranoia. But a few months later, Peep's words would echo like a prophecy. Behind the scenes, there were rare, fleeting moments where Juan admitted he wanted change. A slower life, a cleaner one, but by then, it was too late. His fame had fused to his persona. The recklessness, the drunken bravado, that was the brand. There was no pirate without chaos. No cliques without controversy. And so, the spiral continued. Faster. Darker. By the end of 2017, Juan had developed a dangerous new habit. When he got drunk, which was often, he'd film himself hurling insults at other influencers, public figures, and eventually, criminals. At first, it was petty drama, online beefs, crude language. But as the views grew, so did his targets. Then came the moment he couldn't take back. November 9, 2017. In a now infamous video, Juan looked straight into the camera, glassy-eyed and drunk, and shouted, "El Mencho can't do s*** t to me." It was a line so foolish, so suicidal, that even his most loyal fans were stunned. El Mencho, real name Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, wasn't just a cartel boss. He was the Phantom King of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG. One of the most violent, powerful syndicates in the world. The US government had offered a $10 million reward for his capture. And now, a teenager with no ties to the underworld had dared to spit in his face, on video. For millions to see, the clip went viral. It was allegedly uploaded by a friend, or maybe an opportunist. No one knows for sure. But everyone close to Juan knew what that video meant. It wasn't content. It was a death sentence. No one could explain why Juan said it. Ego? Drunken delusion? A twisted attempt to stay relevant? Whatever it was irreversible. In the weeks that followed, Juan kept posting as if nothing had happened. Drinking, partying, smiling. His fans assumed the worst had blown over, that this would fade like every other viral scandal. But not everything online disappears. Some names, some insults, never get forgotten. December 18, 2017, Juan Luis traveled to Guadalajara to film videos with other influencers, including Hot Spanish, a well-known YouTuber, and Brennan Gringo. They recorded at a rented house, laughing, boasting, unaware. Later that night, they all went out to Los Mentados, a bar in Zapopan. Juan, as always, was loud, alive. He flooded his Instagram stories with updates. Pull up. Hermanos. Drinks on me tonight at Los Mentados. His location. Broadcast in real time. By 11 p.m., he was seated in the back of the bar, surrounded by friends and escorts. Glass in hand, music blaring, smile wide. Then, the door slammed open. 4, maybe 5, men entered. No masks, no words, just rifles. They walked straight to Juan's table and opened fire. The first bullets shattered glass. The next shattered bodies. Screams tore through the bar as patrons dove for cover. Blood slicked the floor. Tables overturned. Bottles burst into shards. It was over in less than 10 seconds. When the smoke cleared, Juan Luis was slumped in his chair, riddled with bullets, mouth still open in a half-smile. He never got to finish his drink. The forensic report later confirmed that Juan Luis had been executed with an AR-15 automatic rifle, a weapon favored by Mexico's cartels for its lethal precision at close range. The aftermath inside the bar was pure pandemonium. Patrons threw themselves to the ground, whispering prayers through clenched teeth, hoping the nightmare would pass. When the shooting stopped, every eye turned to the same place. The boys slumped at the back table. 18 bullets had torn through his body. Death had been instantaneous, but tragically, Juan Luis was not the only victim. A 25-year-old bar employee, standing too close to the chaos, was also struck. He clung to life for hours before dying in a hospital the next morning. The gunmen vanished into the night like ghosts, leaving no trace, no words, no warnings, no shell casings, just silence and blood. Within hours, police and prosecutors from the state of Jalisco launched an investigation, though no official conclusion was released. Suspicion immediately fell on the CJNG, the Jalisco New Generation cartel, led by the man Juan had foolishly mocked in that viral clip, El Mencho. Prosecutor Raul Sanchez Jimenez acknowledged the authorities were seriously examining the cartel connection, but also made it clear that it was not the only avenue being explored. Other leads included possible personal disputes or unresolved conflicts within Juan's circle. Still, the nature of the hit, the speed, the precision, the total lack of hesitation, pointed unmistakably to a professional job. This wasn't a drunken brawl or random act of violence. It was a message. From the beginning, the investigation was crippled. None of the witnesses at the bar dared to speak. Not one. The fear of cartel retaliation was simply too great. A wall of silence fell around the case. Days turned into months. The trail went cold. No arrests were made. And as cartel violence across Jalisco surged into an uncontrollable spiral, the death of Juan Luis Rosales began to fade into the background. In December 2017, just days after his killing, 2 mutilated corpses were found packed in coolers and dumped outside the gates of Televisa's news station in Guadalajara. A bloody warning to both the press and law enforcement. The state prosecutor's office announced the investigation into Juan's death remained open. But no breakthroughs came, no names, no charges, no justice. The pirate of Culiacan was disappearing from headlines, another casualty in an endless chain of executions. Yet in March 2018, a flicker of hope emerged. Police in Jalisco arrested a man named Emilio Alejandro Pinedo, known on the streets as El Sobrino, the nephew. He was a high-ranking CJNG operative suspected of involvement in the killing of government official Luis Noguera. During the search of his phone, investigators stumbled upon something shocking: a cache of gruesome photographs depicting murdered victims. Among them were several images of Juan Luis, his broken body. The blood, the angle of death frozen in pixels. With that discovery, El Sobrino was suddenly a prime suspect in the murder that had shaken Mexico's online world. More troubling still, Pinedo was revealed to be the personal assistant of Antonio Oseguera Santos, alias Tony Montana, the brother of El Mencho himself. The connection ignited a firestorm of speculation. Had the CJNG, enraged by Juan's insult, dispatched one of their inner circle to carry out the hit? Had the mocking words of a teenage boy triggered a kill order from the very top? But even as the dots connected, prosecutors hesitated. No direct evidence linked Pinedo to the night at Los Mentados. No witnesses. No forensic match. The images on his phone, while disturbing, weren't enough. In the end, El Sobrino was charged, but not for Juan Luis. He was prosecuted for unrelated crimes. And the case of the pirate of Culiacan was quietly shelved, buried beneath bureaucracy, fear, and blood. It wasn't until August 2022, nearly 5 years after the murder, that a new lead emerged. The Mexican news outlet Milenio revealed that Ricardo Ruiz Velasco, known as LRR, commander of CJNG's special forces in the Zapopan and Tlac regions, was believed to be the true mastermind behind Juan Luis's killing. According to sources, LRR considered the video in which Juan insulted El Mencho to be not just a provocation, but a grave humiliation. He reportedly wanted Juan's death to serve as a brutal warning, one that would echo across Mexico's criminal underworld: defy the boss, and you vanish. Anonymous informants from within the criminal world claimed LRR had personally ordered the hit and even enforced an unwritten ban on mentioning El Pirata at Los Mentados, the very bar where the killing occurred. Milenio also reported that several CJNG operatives had privately confessed to their role in the execution. But the police never managed to obtain, let alone release, those testimonies. To this day, neither the Jalisco State Prosecutor's Office nor the Mexican federal government has brought formal charges against anyone directly tied to the murder of Juan Luis Lagunas Rosales. The case has become a symbol, an indictment of the justice system's impotence in the face of the cartel's bloody authority. In the aftermath, public debate ignited over the roles of the influencers who had been with Juan that night. Suspicion fell particularly on Hot Spanish, the YouTuber who had been filming alongside Juan just hours before the ambush. Many speculated that he had leaked Juan's location, or at the very least, knew more than he claimed, though no concrete evidence ever linked Hot Spanish to the crime. Discrepancies in his account raised red flags. His version of events didn't match that of Brennan Gringo, another influencer present that night. Curiously, Hot Spanish had initially failed to mention a crucial detail: that a bullet had narrowly missed him during the attack. When this fact came to light later, people were puzzled. Why leave it out? The tragedy didn't just shatter a young life, it exposed the hollow relationships Juan had clung to. The very people who had laughed beside him on camera, toasted with him at parties, and used his fame to boost their own brands, quickly distanced themselves. Former, close friends now insisted they barely knew him. Business partners refused comment. No one wanted to be associated with the fallout. His grandmother, Maria, the woman who raised him from infancy, later revealed that after Juan left home, he barely kept in touch. She heard about him through others, rarely directly. On rare visits, Juan had promised to buy her a house, to take care of her. But even at the height of his fame, those promises never materialized. Juan's family, especially his grandmother and younger sister, began asking questions. Where was the money? Where was the wealth he flaunted online? The harsh truth surfaced. Most of what Juan had displayed was borrowed, staged, or simply fake. In the world of digital illusions, you can look like a millionaire and still have nothing in your bank account. When they gathered all of Juan's remaining possessions, they realized there wasn't enough left behind to truly change anyone's life. Not even his own. After the shooting, The police contacted the family to retrieve his body and personal items. But fearful it could be a trap, they waited 3 days before collecting the remains. As for his luggage and belongings, they hesitated even longer, raising suspicions that someone might have cleaned up before the family arrived. Friends and fans posted tributes online. Pictures, quotes, emojis of heartbreak. But the brutal truth? Very few were mourning the real Juan Luis. What lingered in people's minds wasn't the boy himself, but the character, the reckless, loud, drunken internet star with a tragic, bloody end. The story of the pirate of Culiacan wasn't just a murder, it was a grim warning. A cautionary tale about the price of fame, about how far a teenager would go to be noticed. Juan Luis craved recognition, admiration, money, so he created a version of himself that the world couldn't ignore. And in the end, that version consumed him. Worse still, his death revealed something far more painful, that the connections he built through fame were hollow, performative, opportunistic. Were they ever friends? Or just people who saw in Juan a shortcut to clout, clicks, and cash? And us, those of us watching from the outside, are we innocent? Or are we complicit? Every like, every share, every laugh at someone else's self-destruction, does it carry a cost? What do you think about this story? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to follow more true crime cases from Latin America and beyond. And above all, remember this: live authentically. Cherish what's real, because the most dangerous lie is the one we tell about ourselves. Thank you for watching.